Nationals are just around the corner, the New Zealand National Championships in speed puzzling that is, so I thought it was time to do a little bit of homework, go over the details of the event, see what the rules are, and a good old speculation on what kind of puzzles we're gonna expect to see. Hi, my name is Isabel and this is On the Edge. Before we delve right into the video, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by absolutely nobody. Let me just make one thing very clear. I'm not affiliated with the New Zealand Jigsaw Puzzle Association or with Ravensburger themselves, so I've got no insider knowledge whatsoever, and all information shown on this video is publicly available on the internet. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go straight into the video. Whether you're a contestant or you're just coming to watch the action, you want to make your way to Auckland on Saturday 19th of July. The National Championships in Speed Puzzling will be held at the Mount Smart Stadium in Penrose. Or is it Go Smart Stadium, or like whatever it's called these days, Mount Smart Stadium in Penrose. The admission is free for spectators, and if you're a contestant you will have purchased your entry ticket in advance. I think there are still tickets left for individuals and for teams, but pairs is definitely sold out. So free admission for spectators. There's also free parking on site. So they provided us this parking map here because there are two entrances to Mount Smart Stadium. One is on Morris Road and one is on O'Rourke Road. And each of the entrances lead to different car parks, but I think it will be signposted quite well, so I think you should be fine. If you're taking public transport, the Penrose station is only a 15-minute walk away, so it's easily doable. And you will also come in from the O'Rourke Road entrance into Mount Smart Stadium. If you're expecting a huge event because it's at Mount Smart Stadium, you might be slightly bit disappointed because we're not going to fill the whole main field. It's going to be at the East Lounge, so keep an eye out for all the signposting towards the championship themselves or towards the East Lounge. But don't be too disappointed because there is still quite a spectacle. From this image here, I've been calculating that there should be about 120 to 140 individuals and also 60 to 70 pairs and about 60 to 70 teams. And what we can also see from these numbers is that individuals will have to share a table between two people, but pairs and teams will have their own table each. Let's have a quick look at the schedule for the day. So the doors open at 8 o'clock with individuals scheduled to start at 9. They've got 3 hours to complete their puzzle, followed by a quick break leads into the pairs category, which starts at 12:30. They only got 2 hours to complete theirs. Another quick break, and then that leads into the teams category, which starts at 3 p.m. They've got another 3 hours, so that's all the way until 6 o'clock. So you can see there's action all day, and prize giving will be after each of the individual categories. So if you only compete in one of the categories, you don't have to wait until the very end to receive your prize. Just a quick note, if you're competing, you don't want to come just right at the race start. You have to come in advance, and I recommend at least half an hour to get your registration sorted and also set yourself up on the table and kind of get familiar with the environment. In addition to the actual competition, there's also a few things that are happening at the same time. So there is entertainment for kids in the background. If you want to bring your kids, that's absolutely fine. Then there's a pop-up store from Ravensburger where you can buy new puzzles. There's also a merchandise store from the New Zealand Jigsaw Puzzle Association that just released a new merchandise range. There's a swap table in the corner, so if you have any old puzzles that you no longer want, you can swap them for other puzzles. And then there's a special swap meet just for Ravensburger puzzles that's happening at 2:45. I'll link you all of these documents in the description if you want to have a quick look at them later on at your own time. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the event rules. So if you're a contestant, you want to pay close attention, but if you're a spectator, I wouldn't be too upset if you're skipping ahead based on the timestamps below. The aim is to find out who in New Zealand can complete a jigsaw puzzle the fastest. Isn't that exciting? There will be 3 categories: individuals, pairs and teams. Okay, we knew that. A puzzle in a bag will be placed on each competition table, so the puzzle is secret until then, so that's why they put the plastic bag around, so that you can't see what the puzzle is in advance. When the starter gives the signal, you may open the outer bag. Once all puzzles are out of the bag, the starter will begin a countdown and tell you when you can open the puzzle box and start puzzling. So that means that you have the box wrapped into the outer plastic bag. You take your scissors, bring scissors, and open that up as soon as the signal's been given, and that's ahead of the race time. So you have a little bit of time to peacefully remove the bag and then also have a look at the image and get your strategy sorted in your head and see which area you want to tackle first. And then when the race clock starts, you then open the box and there's another plastic bag inside that you will need your scissors again. The first person, pair or team to complete their puzzle will be the winner. I think that's probably obvious. Each competitor, pair or team's completion time will be recorded, and at the end of the event the participants will be ranked in order of how quickly they finished. I mean, it's a race, so I think that's also fairly obvious. We had a look at the program or the schedule before. Individuals event, anybody may enter the competition. I think they want to say there is no qualification for it. The only qualification is, can you get there in time and can you pay your entry fee? Each participant has 3 hours to complete a 500-piece Ravensburger puzzle. After 3 hours, all participants that have not yet completed their puzzle will have to stop puzzling, and the remaining pieces will be counted by the judges. So that means if you haven't finished, they still rank you and how far you got in your puzzle. And the participants may take home your puzzle. Nice! In the pairs event, a pair consists of exactly 2 people. Anybody may enter the competition, so again, there's no qualification for that. Each participant, or like each pair of participants, has 2 hours to complete a 500-piece Ravensburger puzzle. And after 2 hours, all participants who haven't yet completed their puzzle stop puzzling, and the pieces are counted again. You may take home your puzzle, but there's only one puzzle between pairs, so you kind of have to fight who can have the puzzle and who takes it home. You sort that out between yourselves. In a team can consist of 2 to 4 people. So you can start with 2 people, with 3 and with 4. Obviously, you've got the highest chances if you can fill up with 4. Changes in team members are not allowed during the competition, but changes in team members can be made prior to the competition, which is still on the day. So if you've signed up with 4 people and someone doesn't show up, you can swap in someone else before the competition, but you can't, like, during the competition say, like, this person's absolutely rubbish, let's get someone else in. That's not how it's going to work. But if someone is sick or someone doesn't show up or someone missed the bus, I don't know, is stuck in traffic, you can still swap that person out for somebody else ahead of the competition. But you have to inform NZJPA of any changes as soon as possible, at the latest when you're registering just before the competition. Each team has 3 hours to complete a 1,000-piece Ravensburger puzzle, and after 3 hours remaining counting pieces, same thing. Team takes home their puzzle. Same thing again, you only have 1 puzzle and you have 2 to 4 people, so you sort out between yourself who can take home the puzzle. Maybe just make it a traveling puzzle and you just swap it around every half a year or so, I don't know. For the prizes, the award ceremony is straight after each of the categories. So the individual category is at 12:05. The pairs at 2:35 and the teams at 6:05. And the top 3 finishers of each category receive a trophy as well as a Ravensburger puzzle. So now to the important part. Each individual participant or a representative team member must register at the registrations at least 15 minutes before the start of the event and be given a score sheet. That's what I was saying. They say at least 15 minutes, but I recommend 30. Participants must be seated at their table 10 minutes before the start of each event, with their score sheet clearly displayed on their table. In my last competition, I didn't have enough space, so I threw the score sheet on the floor and nobody was very happy about that. So don't do that. It needs to be displayed on the table, and the rules say it very clearly here. During the competition, judges will monitor the progress of the assembly. When a participant is close to finishing their time, they will raise their hand to alert a nearest judge. So if you're really ahead of time, they will notice themselves. But if you're finishing with a lot of other people, like in the main kind of field, you may want to raise your hand so that one of the volunteers kind of notices that you finished soon, so that they are close by and can write down the time. Penalties. A 5-minute penalty applies for every 2 pieces that are found to be in the incorrect place after your time is recorded. So if you're just deciding to smash your pieces anywhere just to have everything, that's not how it works. You have to complete it so that the image makes sense and everything is where it belongs. In a case of lost pieces, and because competitions are quite frantic and hectic and chaotic, there is quite a lot of lost pieces usually. In case of lost pieces, 10 seconds will be added to your final time for each lost piece. In the case of more than 10 pieces lost, the participation will be considered void. So if you think, oh, 10 seconds time 500 pieces, oh my, that seems competitive. You can't do that. If you just decide to throw away pieces just on purpose, you're getting disqualified. If there are 2 or more adjacent pieces missing, there's no penalty applied because it's considered a manufacturing error. So that happened in the World Championships before, where one of the top contestants had 4 pieces in one corner missing, and that was before this rule came in. So that is why this rule came in. So if there's a manufacturing error and pieces are missing together, I was always wondering, if you have a piece missing, do you just throw away the one next to it? I don't know, whatever. Receiving help during competition. You may ask and receive assistance to complete your puzzle, but you will not have your time recorded and you will not receive a ranking. So if somebody helps you, it's fine, but you get disqualified. So it's not fine, whatever. General rules: you're not required to stay seated in your chair. So you can see that quite often in the live streams and in the videos that people stand up and move around depending on which part. Like if you're working on the sky, you might want to walk around and do it from the other side. You can eat, drink and go to the bathroom during the competition, but the race clock does not start. So ideally you don't want to do that, but if you're sitting there for 3 hours, you might have to do that. You may bring accessories and tools such as spatula, magnifying glass, sorting trays, box top holders or supports to keep the box top upright, and headphones as long as they do not disturb the rest of the participants. We'll get into the packing list later on, so I'm not going too many details here. You might bring extra lighting in form of a small desk lamp as long as it doesn't cause any hindrance to other participants. Must be battery operated. I've never ever seen anyone bringing a lamp. Headlamps are not allowed. You may not bring an adjustable puzzle top, tilting puzzle boards or any objects that change the height or the layout of the table, so leave that at home if you have that. And you're not allowed to use a template where you can see the cutting pattern. Singing and vocals are not allowed, so if you're listening to music, keep it to yourself. Leave the competition area within 5 minutes of completing your puzzle, so you can leave the puzzle and all your stuff there and kind of come back later when the competition's finished. Only participants, judges and authorized personnel are allowed to enter the competition area, so spectators are supposed to go in the observation area around it. A participant cannot be part of 2 different pairs or teams, therefore they can only participate once per category. So if you think you're really fast and you're going in your fast team, and then you think once you're finished, you're kind of filling up a team that's only 3 people, that's not happening. You can only be in one team. There's no age restriction, but if you bring children under the age of 14, they must be supervised at any time. Arrival or no-show: if you're arriving late, your time will not be adjusted. International competitors are welcome to enter, but they're not eligible for official placement. The tables for individuals and pairs: 2 competitors may need to share a table, so it has been confirmed that individuals will be sharing a table, but pairs will have their own table. If you're sharing a table, please strictly keep your puzzle on your half of the table and be considerate to the other person. So in the Hawke's Bay regional event, they actually had tape glued onto the table so you could see where the halfway point was. Okay, so there's a few more disclaimers down here, but that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Let's move on to the packing list. Everything you want to bring on competition day. I've got a whole nother video about that if you want to have a detailed look at it, but we'll quickly run through it here anyway. Competition shirt. So if you've got a special shirt that you want to wear on that day, some people have really exciting things, custom-made, tailor-made, really special. It seems like the fashion is a competition in itself, but whatever you're planning to bring, don't forget your shirt. Hair tie and clips. If you've got longer hair, make sure they don't get in your way. Scissors. The rules didn't say anything about scissors, so they don't explicitly ban scissors, but they also don't explicitly allow scissors, so because they're not banned, I assume it's allowed. So I'm just going to bring scissors because it makes so much easier to remove the outer wrap and then the inner plastic bag. Box stand. So if you've got anything to prop up your box, special puzzle box holder or anything, bring that. If you don't, bring an extra water bottle so you can prop it up that way. Trays. So you want to have at least 2 trays because individuals is quite a small space. I always make sure I've got one white and one not white, and I prefer the ones that have no rim, so pretty much just a cardboard. Headphones. You saw in the rules you're allowed headphones, but you're not allowed to have it playing music that loud that other people are disturbed, and you're not allowed to sing. Water bottle and lunch and snacks. So if you're going to be there all day, you need to have some food at some stage. I don't think that there's any food for sale at that day, so you would need to go out and buy something if you don't bring anything. So during the competition you might not have time, but there are enough breaks in between, so bring something to eat and bring some water. So now it gets really nerdy, so I'm going to take a measuring tape, and I'm probably going to be the only one doing that. I know it's very nerdy, but I want to know how wide the tables are. So in some competitions they specify the size of the tables, but in this one they haven't. So I want to know how wide the table is, because in individuals and pairs it probably doesn't matter, but in teams I want to know if I can put the puzzle sideways or if I have to put it one way up. So if I put it the normal way, 2 people see it the right way and 2 people see it upside down. And ideally I want to move it 90 degrees so that everyone can see it sideways. So a 1000 piece Ravensburger is usually 70 by 50 centimeters. So I want to know if the table is at least 70 or probably better 75 centimeters wide. Because if I put it sideways, which is preferred from a puzzling perspective, and then halfway through I notice that it doesn't fit on the table and I have to rotate it back, that's going to be a nightmare, and I definitely want to avoid that. That's why I'm going to bring a measuring tape. And the last thing I'm going to bring is a warm-up puzzle. So that's not a specific puzzle, it's just any kind of small puzzle, maybe like 100 pieces, so that I can, just before the race starts, in that hour that everyone gets nervous and trying to get ready, that I can just practice a little puzzle, get my head around, get my fingers moving. And a 100-piece puzzle should probably take 5 or 10 minutes. I've never done this before, but I've seen it in a lot of videos that other people do that. So I'm going to bring one and then we'll see how it goes. So this is probably the most exciting part of the video, speculation of what kind of puzzle we're gonna expect to see at the championships. So from the rules we know that individuals and pairs is 500 piece Ravensburger, and from the teams it's a 1000 piece Ravensburger puzzle. 1000 piece Ravensburger, there are so many out there, so I'm just gonna completely ignore those. But if you want to have a research later on yourself, I'm gonna give you all the tools that you can have a look at those ones too. But I'm gonna focus on 500 piece Ravensburger puzzles in this video. So the first place I want to go is the World Jigsaw Puzzle Federation. So on their website you can see the results not just of the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships, but also of national championships from around the world. So if you go here on results, you have all the international competitions that have just been, and then if you click on Worlds you can see the previous World Championships results. For example, the Austrian one was the most recent one. So if we go on here, you can see that they had this 500 Ravensburger puzzle in teams. So their teams works a bit different than ours. Then up here you can go to the pairs. So they had this one here in pairs. And then in individual, they had those funny dogs here. And if you go back on the results, you can click your way through all the different championships that have been held around the world. And let's have a look at the Norwegian one just for funsies. They've got this interesting one here. They also have a different qualifying round. So if you go on this one, for example, that one, or then here, this one. Yeah, so all sorts of things. So you can click your way through and have a look, not just what kind of puzzles they have, but then they also have the times on here. So the top person in this one got that in 40 minutes. Wow. All right. What else I wanted to do is have a look at the different catalogs. So Ravensburger doesn't just have one catalog, they have different catalogs for different countries. And I thought it was quite hard to find them, but there is a Reddit thread that does all the heavy lifting for us. So on here, you can see all the catalogs for the different jigsaw puzzle manufacturers. So if you ever go to a different competition that uses another manufacturer, you can come here and just have a look at that too. Ravensburger's all the way down. Here we go. So they've got a catalogue for the US, for the UK, and then different other European catalogues in different languages. So I want to start on the US one. So the adult puzzles start with licensed. So license is their way of saying they have to buy a license to be able to print them. So that's all the ones like from movies and video games and these kind of things. I kind of wanted to ignore them altogether, but the problem is that some of them showed up in competition before. There are so many of them, so I would love to just ignore those. So many. But then here, the Peanuts Graffiti was in the Denmark Championships this year, and also the Bridgerton one down here, that one was in Belgium this year. So Yeah, I kind of want to ignore them, but maybe we need to find out what is the favorite TV show of someone who would choose that. Maybe we'll stalk the chair of the New Zealand Jigsaw Puzzle Association on Facebook and see if they've got anything. Whatever, let's move on. Then more license. Then we've got the wooden ones. I just would say we're ignoring those. The wooden ones are really expensive, so I don't think they would choose any of those. I want to ignore them. Then the catalogue continues with 200 pieces and 300 pieces, 300 large print, and then we're coming to 500 large print. So large format is a puzzle that has bigger pieces, and therefore the puzzle also ends up to be bigger. So a 500 piece large format from Ravensburger has the size of a regular 1000 piece puzzle. And because of that, I think we can ignore that as well, because in the individual category, the tables are quite small. You have to share a table with someone else. So I don't think they will take a large format. And I've also never seen one of the large formats in competition. So thank God we can ignore all those. So the next thing here is the circle of colors. They are very, very, very popular. So these ones, definitely watch them. There are 10 in this catalog, but there are 18 in totals, and they add new ones every year. So the mushroom one is the new one this year. For example, astrology was in Canada and in Portugal. Then oceans was in world. Insects in Germany just this year. The seashells in Canada. The donuts in Colombia. The Pokeball was in worlds. So they are very popular, not just in real life with people, but also with competitions. So watch this space, circle of colors. They're quite big though, so I hope they're not choosing them, because like a normal rectangular Ravensburger is much smaller than the round circle of colors. And it's also, the cut is different. Like I find the round ones harder than the rectangular ones. So I'm hoping they're not choosing them, but definitely watch that space. They are very popular in competitions. When we move on, Antonio Segura Dalk is the artist of those 4 ones. I kind of want to ignore them. I mean, they're really pretty, but I had the feeling they're too niche. But then the Afterglow here was in the German competition just this year. So we can't completely ignore them, but they are very niche. So I think it's probably a no, but not a definite no. And then we have this page. So this page is probably the most important page of the whole catalog. So this is all the new releases. The Glorious Garden Center was in Denmark and Austria. The Succulent Love in Germany, Norway and Czechia. Evening in Paris in Sweden. Tranquil Harbor in Sweden. Precious Porcelain Pubs in Sweden and the Netherlands. The Copycats and Succulents. Finland, Denmark, Nordic Championships. The Streets of Pisa, Worlds, then I'm not going to pronounce this, and Italy. And Excalibur Forest in Slovenia and Germany. So every single one here has been in competition this year, or last year. No, actually this year. These ones, very high contenders. So yeah, if you want to practice any puzzle, this page is your page. The next page are some older ones. I mean, I've got that floral reflection sitting here just right behind me. But overall, these ones occasionally show up, but not too much. The only one I would really watch here is the Rabbit Recital. The Rabbit Recital was in Finland, Portugal and the Nordic countries this year, and in Denmark last year. So it's not a new one, but it's still very popular in competitions. I think it's very pretty, and I think it shouldn't be too hard. So I see why they choose that a lot, but definitely watch that space. And then here we've got these ones. I've done the sloth selfie. That one is so hard with the fur and they all look the same. I hope they're not choosing that. I've done the golden solar systems, kind of okay. But the postcard ones were quite popular a few years back. So there's also a Paris one. So the London one was in Worlds 22 and Japan 24. The New York Worlds 23 and Australia 24. And the Paris one Worlds 24, Canada 24 and Sweden 24. So it seems like the Paris one is the newest of them. I have the feeling that they are past their expiry date and we're not seeing them anymore. But if we do, they seem to be quite easy, and they are also the most solved puzzles on myspeedpuzzling.com amongst all puzzles on the database. Yeah, and that's it from this catalog already. So that's Square 75. So that's all the 500 pieces in the US catalog. So let's move on to UK. So the adult puzzles start on page 60. And we're starting with some smaller ones, 300 pieces. Then we've got large print, so I'm ignoring large print. Then we're back to Circle of Color. We talked about those. There are a few different ones on here that we haven't seen in the other catalog. For example, the animals here weren't in the other one. I think the flowers weren't in the other one. Then we've got the Antonio Segura Dog up here that we talked about. And then they are, in this catalog, they are sorting by what the image shows. So books, hobbies, and pastime. We've got the Precious Porcelain Pups that we had before. And the Tranquil Harbor. I'm surprised that the Haberdasher is still in here. I've done this one a few years ago, so it's quite an old one. The archaeology desk shows up in places, so these are kind of all medium contenders, I would say. It's not impossible, but I wouldn't say they are, I don't think they're the first choice, but maybe. Then on this page, we've got the Bavarian Romance, which I think is a high contender. The Evening in Paris, we've seen that before. We have got the Postcard. Those Escape 2 puzzles here, this whole range, I would exclude that altogether because it's inherently British. It's also UK developed, and I don't think they would choose that. But in saying that, New Zealand is kind of a little bit British. I hope not. I'm ignoring those. I don't like those. Next page, we've got the favorite characters, which is their way to say licensed. We've got the Bridgerton ones that we talked about. The My Hero Academia also showed up before as one of the few ones that we had in competition, although it's a license. So yeah, those two, maybe, maybe not, I hope not. But this one here is probably the most important page of this catalog. We've got the colorful animals up here. The chameleon was in Finland and Portugal this year. The peacock, luckily nobody chose that one yet. It's so hard, so I think we can ignore it. I think they will not dare to choose that one. That would be such a nightmare. The red lionfish was in Sweden, Portugal, and Czechia, and the butterfly was in Finland and in Portugal. So these three here are highly popular in competitions. So if you want to practice on anything, I recommend you do these, and the chameleon is so pretty. So if it's one of those, I would go for the chameleon. We've just seen in the Austria one was the dogs. I thought we could ignore these bottom two because the way they're animated is really weird and really childish, and I really don't like them. But I mean, who knows? Other people like other things. But I would say those three animals one here, watch that space. So if we continue, animals, wildlife, and the natural world, we've got the Excalibur Forest, which we've seen in the other catalogue before. The Ocean Whimsy was out there before, so that one, definitely watch that. I would hope for Cats on the Shelf because I've done that a few times. It's the only Ravensburger 500 at my library stock, so I've done it multiple times. The Cute Dog in the Garden, I think, is a place to watch. The Zebras in the Waterhole, and then obviously the Rabbit Recital that we talked about before. Would be so funny, it would be that one. Like if you would make a bet, I would bet the Rabbit Recital. Cottage Gardens and Flowers, Greenhouse in the Morning, yes. I don't think Granddad's Garden, that looks like a whole dozen puzzle really. Flower Jungle is new, Glorious Garden Center is new, and the Succulent Love that we've seen before. So those three, definitely watch those as well. And then we're already at the 2-pack 500, so I think we can ignore those two because they are not available as individual jigsaw puzzles, only as a 2-pack. So yeah, ignore. Alright, I'll save you the Swiss one, mainly because it's German. But the last catalogue I want to go through is ENA, which is Europe, North Africa. Adults start at page 175. So here we go. We start with some smaller ones. The piece count is down here in the bottom, a bit hidden. So these are the small ones, the wooden ones, the wooden ones. Okay, here we are, Circle of Color. We talked about those, but they have a few different ones again. So they have the mandala, which is very African-centric. I think it's very pretty, but... And then we've got the animals. I don't think I've seen those before. The fruits and vegetables. I think none of them should be too bad, but yeah, because of the size, I kind of hope not. They also have those three round ones that I find quite pretty, the Little Sun range. But because it's very African, I'm not sure if they actually give us one of those. More Circle of Colors. Here on this page we are seeing a few that we've seen before. There is Evening in Paris and an Evening Walk, which is also Paris. So there's 3 evening Paris puzzles in the catalog that are very similar in style and very similar in names, so that it can be quite confusing. So it's these 2, and based on their style, that's something that I have the feeling they might choose. We've talked about most of these ones here. And then we've got the dogs here. Nothing too specific here. Oh yes, Maritime Flair. Maritime Flair, I'm surprised, is still in the catalogue. That one was championships last year in New Zealand. So if you've been to the national championships last year, which was the first national championships in New Zealand ever, that was Maritime Flair. So I've done this one afterwards because last year I didn't go to the championships because I didn't know they existed. So I found this one in the library in Palmerston North and have done this puzzle. If you want to watch that video, I would have placed 6 if I had gone, but I didn't, so I didn't. Alright, here we've got some Christmas puzzles. I assume we're not getting Christmas puzzles. So, yeah, no, I just cannot imagine a reality where they would choose a Christmas puzzle. I don't think that's going to happen. I've done these 2. That one's harder than it looks. They call it flat lay collage. I thought it was kind of vintage still. It's kind of weird because in this catalog, all the different... all puzzles have different names than in the other catalogs. But anyway, I love the polygon animal down here. Is that a lion? Absolutely love it. I don't think it would be easy, but the picture is so pretty. I would love that one. Then we've got postcard up here again. I've done the garden visitor. Wouldn't mind that one. Quite a few of those have been in competition before. The colourful townhouses in London. The springtime in Paris. Why is there so much Paris? Is Paris also trendy? Also here, the streets of Pisa. The archaeology desk, we've seen that one before. The lupins were in Worlds. Then there is this other Paris ones that I was talking about. There is Evening in Paris and A Evening in Paris and A Walk in the Evening in Paris. And I love the magical deer. This one is so nice. On the Ravensburger website, they have a video where they're showing how Ravensburger puzzles are made, and the magical deer is their example on how it's going to be designed and how they cut the cut and all these kind of things. And it exists in a 500 and in 1000 pieces. Wouldn't it be funny if they had the same puzzle in pairs and teams, like pairs 500 and teams 1000? I don't think they're going to do that, but I think that would be quite funny. Let's move on. This page is also still quite important. We've got Postcard from Paris, talked about that. Hello Vinyl. Then this one here is called Fairy Magic, I think. I mean, it says Après all day here, but as I'm saying, in other catalogs they have other names. So Fairy Magic was in competition before. This one's called Brunch Crunch in other places. That one's also quite a high contender, just the way it's illustrated. We've also seen the glacier, the eye in the glacier. I think people complained quite a lot because it's so hard. Same thing with Pink Thunder. That was in competition and people didn't like it. What I find weird, Northern Lights in Bergsfjell and other catalogs, it's Northern Lights in Tromsø. And they are not exactly the same place, but whatever. So these Scandinavian ones were in Worlds before as well. The boathouses and the sunset in Copenhagen. I have the feeling that they will not choose those because they are kind of too hard. So I think just to have it more accessible and make the event more of a success, I think they choose something easier, not these difficult ones. But in saying that, I was always wondering who actually chooses those. Is Ravensburger choosing the puzzles and giving that to them? Or are they ordering a specific one? Is New Zealand Jigsaw Puzzle Organization, Jigsaw Puzzle Association, are they saying, can we have 140 of this puzzle, and they just send them down? Or is Ravensburger saying oh, we found a pallet of overstocked things. Oh, let's just send them to New Zealand. You know what I mean? I was always wondering that. And the other day I seen a post that they were saying that usually Ravensburger says do you want to have those? And then the association says either yes, or they're they're a bit hard, can we have something else? So it's more of a kind of negotiation. So it kind of depends on who's in the organization and who in Ravensburger suggests that, and if the people in Ravensburger who suggested, if they know much about speed puzzling or not. And all right, back to this. We've got the cats and the succulents again, and the rabbit recital. So yeah, my highest bet would be on that one. And then we've got the 3 animals, so the 4 animals, but nobody will ever choose the peacock. Down here, the spikes, also succulents. So succulents seem to be quite trendy at the moment too. I don't think they will use this one just because it's really dark. So on this picture, it's still okay, but I've seen pictures from people doing the actual puzzle, and the picture is really dark and has not much contrast. So I think that's also a too hard basket that I don't think they will choose. And this last page here, we've seen a few of those. The Flower Jungle, the Epic Journey was also in a competition that people then complained about afterwards because it's so hard. Yeah, overall, I think that's where we are. Is there more? Oh yeah, there is the glow-in-the-dark line, but yeah, I don't think we're going to get glow-in-the-dark unicorns, to be honest. They are technically 500-piece puzzles, but I think it's a no. Yeah, and then we're already with the crypt, which is more than 500 pieces. Yeah, so I know it was a lot. This is where we've been and where we're going and what we can expect to see. So if you want to have my speculations, my ideas on that, I would say high contenders would be the Circle of Colors, then the 3 colorful animals, the Rabbit Recital, and then all of the ones that are kind of these illustrated, plain illustration kind of things, like, you know, the 3 different Paris ones, the Pisa, Streets of Pisa, or something like the Brunch Crunch, the Flower Jungle, and these kind of things. Like they are more the safe bet for them. But then if Ravensburger wants to push their new line, I think it would probably be like more like the Chameleon or the Red Lionfish. I wouldn't mind the Chameleon, to be honest, but Rabbit Recital or the Chameleon would be my bet. I would say, yeah, I'll go with that. Rabbit Recital or the Chameleon. That's me. I hope to see you at the Nationals. I'm going to go and I'm going to compete in all 3 categories. So I'm going to do individuals, pairs and teams. If you're going to be there, say hello, and I wish you good luck with the competition. If you just want to come to watch and spectate and just cheer us on, that would be most amazing. So I hope to see you there Saturday, 19th of July in Auckland, Mount Smart Stadium. I'll see you there. Bye.